Hi, I'm Katie, and this is the 11th episode of Ornamentations, in which we will have some giveaway winners, a new giveaway to celebrate 1,000 subscribers, some whips, some finishes, and lots of stitchy plans for the year ahead. I hope you are having a wonderful new year so far and that you had a great holiday season. We had a wonderful Christmas here with lots of good food, lots of laughter, some wonderful gifts, and mostly just quality time spent together, which sounds cheesy, but after everything that's happened in the last couple of years, just being able to be together and have what was a pretty normal Christmas felt like the best gift that I received this year. So that was wonderful. I do think I overdid it a little bit with the elfing and the crafting and the baking because I'm still pretty wiped out, and I think it showed in my recently posted tutorial for the ribbon edge ornament finish, which went up on New Year's Eve. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And I made some flubs, both verbally and in the finishing itself, but I think it's still an intelligible tutorial, and this is a great finishing style. It's quite easy, there's no machine sewing, and it's easily adapted to any kind of embroidery you want to use. I loved it for the Quaker medallions from Modern Folk Embroidery's Forget Me Not, but really you could do anything with this. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. And speaking of Modern Folk Embroidery's Forget Me Not, my Simple Harmony box is on its way to the attic, and it went with a friend. I have also sent my finish of Peppermint Pals with the beaded peppermint trim edging for display at the attic, and I hope if you have a chance you will go and be able to see them. That would be great. Also, speaking of Simple Harmony, I know we did have a lot of Christmas and New Year's Day starts. A lot of people stitching on the pattern, stitching on the project, and joining the SAL, which is wonderful. And a very special shout out to Jane Crumpler for being the first person to use the hashtag Simple Harmony SAL other than myself. That felt great. So thank you, Jane. And with that, I would like to show you a couple of gifts that I made and received for Christmas this year. The first is my stitch and finish of Brenda Gervais' Merry Holly Berries. So for this and everything else I'm showing you today, I will post my linen, thread, and materials used. These are my own work. They're not the called for threads. And this is Merry Holly Berries stitched largely with Soie Gobelins on 38 count legacy linen Fuller's Teazel, which was really my go-to ground fabric for holiday stitching this year. I love it. The reds in particular just really pop against it. And I used my beaded spiral rope stitch trim with a 3mm red bicone, which is just this fabulously sparkly little finish. But the real reason I wanted to show this to you today was to demonstrate just how far my finishing has come. So I've shown this to you before, but this is one of my earliest round finishes. This is a needlepointed ornament that I finished myself, and as you can see, not circular. I mean, like vaguely circular in shape, but this, perfect circle, not perfect circle. And, you know, if you are willing to put in the time and the practice and the patience, you too can make huge gains in your finishing, because, I mean, night and day between these two. Obviously, the right tutorial really helped. I used Mona Pfeiffer's flat round ornament finish tutorial for this, and yeah, my round finishing has really improved. But progress. It's possible. If you're not satisfied with your finishing now, it doesn't mean you'll just be dissatisfied with your finishing forever. It's possible to make huge, huge gains. And then I want to show you a few things that my mom made for me. These are 2 Cheswick Company kits that she made, and they are from the 100 Acre Woods series. This is Eeyore. Look at that face. How cute is he? His little pretty tail. Oh my gosh, he's adorable. And then Tigger. So I already had Pooh and Piglet, so now I have a little Winnie the Pooh section on my tree, which I just love. And I love these guys. I love making ornaments, and a lot of what's on my tree I made myself, but I also love receiving handmade ornaments just because I do enough making myself to know how much love and care and work goes into it. So handmade ornaments I have received are especially meaningful to me. And then the other one my mom made for me, she really got crafty this year. Good job, Mom. Was Prairie Schooler Santa. This is an adaptation of the 2021 Santa, I think, which she customized for me. And I didn't actually have any Prairie Schooler Santas on my tree. She has several, but this is my first. And she adapted the design to fit some family jokes, which I won't explain. That's an entire episode in itself, but I love it. I love that she stitched it for me. I love even more that she made it unique and special. When I got home on Christmas, a few things got booted right off the front so that I could put this front and center. And also, check out that beard. She overstitched with this sparkly fuzzy thread, and I think it just really adds to the finish. So those were my handmade gifts from my mom, which are taking pride of place on my tree. And then, I had one more cross-stitch finish in 2021, a lot of which got done, the block stitching really, on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, because, you know, after we open presents and eat, we really just hang out, watch football. We watched the new Bond movie, which I thought was terrible, so I was really happy to sit and stitch and not have to pay attention. But this is Brenda Gervais' Merry Old Soul, which I stitched on Fox and Rabbit 36 count Ocean Air as a companion piece to Peppermint Pals, using a lot of the same threads so that they could go together. And this is Merry Old Soul. I did the same trick with the Accentuate mixed with Soie 103. It's just, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. And then I accented the snowflakes and the little berries with 2mm crystal moonlight rounds. This guy has the stitching has been finished and he is ready for finishing. I haven't done that yet because I went a bit nuts with beads and I'm out and waiting for supplies. But once those come in, I am going to make this trim for this guy, and I think that's going to be great. So that was my last finish of 2021. He's fun. He is really, really fun. And that leads me to some of my stitchy plans for the year ahead. So I got some really great cross stitch finishes done. I made a lot of fun beaded trim. I really enjoyed myself this year, but I went so far down the cross stitch rabbit hole that I really didn't have time to develop anything new in terms of my felt sequin, bead, and sanity ornaments. And that's something that I do really enjoy doing. I did make some as gifts for family and friends, but I didn't, you know, do any new angels for myself or really try out anything new in the felt range. So my thought was that I would try and do a little more Christmas stitching year round, because normally I only do Christmas stitching in season when I'm really, you know, feeling the holiday spirit. I've got the Christmas carols going, the trees up, and you can just hang your finish up as soon as you're done. And that brings me a lot of joy. But I'd like to have more time to do everything, really. And so I've got a stack of charts, mostly Brenda Gervais, a few other things, and it's my goal to do just a little bit of stitching, a couple of threads on Christmas charts every day. And I feel like if I can just put in half an hour, 45 minutes, every day or most days, I'm going to get a ton done in time for next year. And to that end, after finishing Merry Old Soul, I started Burr, It's Cold Outside. I've showed you this chart before. I bought it for my mom for her birthday, and I liked it so much that I am actually stitching it for myself, again on 38 count Fuller's Teazel with Soie Gobelins and Accentuate. This is my start. I don't have a ton done yet so far, because again, just doing a little bit every day, but I love the combination of the coral and the minty green, and I've got some ideas for embellishments on this one, a great idea for trim. I think that this is going to be such a fun finish, and I'm really looking forward to having a completed object on this one. I will show that to you when it's done, just because I think there's going to be some interesting tricks there, which you could use on things that are not Christmas. But what I'd like to ask you is, do you want to see my holiday cross stitch progress throughout the year as I do it? There won't be a ton, because it's going to be the, you know, 1 or 2 threads before bed, so they'll crawl along. So it won't be all Christmas all the time. But do you want to see a little bit as I go along, or should we save it up and do shock and awe in December? Let me know what you think. If I do come up with anything fun and innovative on the finishing front, I'll definitely show you. I have had some requests for new tutorials, which I am considering, although we do have to get back to Simple Harmony right now, because there are a lot of people starting, stitching, and working along. The next Simple Harmony tutorial, which will go up next week, is going to be the overview of the sides and back layouts. The substantive information is already up on my website if you are that far along, but I have also filmed a video showing what I did and explaining the layout and all of the changes that I made to the pattern. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely tired because I'm losing my train of thought. Next up in Stitchy plans. So I am sure most of you watched Nicola Parkman, Hands Across the Sea, and in December she was showing her to-be Christmas gifts from her husband, the hand and lock embroidery cases, which I loved the idea. I thought that is brilliant, because I'm sure, like a lot of you, I stitch in different places in the house. Sometimes I'm on the couch, sometimes I'm in bed unwinding at night, and sometimes I go over to my parents' house and I stitch with my mom. So the idea of being able to just toss everything in a little neat case and have great storage really appealed to me. However, the hand and lock cases, in addition to being sold out, I thought just weren't the best fit for me. I don't mean to hate on hand and lock, but they had a lot of compartments, and I just felt like I'd spend all my time digging through the different pouches and pulling out the trays, and that just didn't seem like the most me thing. So I did a little internet shopping, and this is what I came up with. This is actually a jewelry case from a brand called Kuyana, and it's a little leather case. I had monogrammed. This is the charcoal, and there's a pouch on the top, where I've got my good scissors and a Malor, which is a gold work tool, but whether you do gold work or not, these are actually just really useful things to have around. It's got a little pointed edge at one end, and then the rounded edge at the other allows you to kind of move around and position your threads as necessary. And then the bottom is mostly just open. It does come with this really clever little leather pouch, which I'm sure is meant to store your rings or something, but it's actually the perfect size for needles. So I've got a little packet of Bohin 28 tapestry needles, which, yeah, I can't put back in the case, but that's my fault. That's not Guyana's fault. I've got some of my favorite little Japanese needles for fine finishing. So I've got my little needle case in the bottom. I've got a little bottle of tulip fine applique needles. I've got my, I've got my junky scissors, which I use for everything that's not fine silk. Metal threads, metallic threads, any kind of synthetic. Where I don't want to use my good scissors, I use these. These have been the workhorse for like a decade. I bought these for $8. I'm not even sure I've ever had them sharpened, and they're still going strong. And then I've got some of my working threads for burr. It's cold outside. And then I have this little gem, the needle sharpener macaron from Clover, which I'm sure you've seen on Flosstube. Everyone at summer school got one. Nicola's shown them as well. And I just love this little thing. It's so cute. And they work. And it's also what inspired one of my other major stitchy plans for the year ahead. So I love this as a little sleek, compact, carry around the Essentials embroidery case. And I've been using it since it arrived, and I love it. It's beautiful, it's practical, it's functional. Great job, Kuyana. But it has long been something that I've wanted to do, to have a really fancy stay-at-home sewing box that could hold all my nice scissors, it could hold my awls, my laying tools, all the things that I don't really use very regularly, that I don't necessarily need to carry around with me, but you know, just full stitching repository with beautiful smalls, with beautiful scissors holders, with fobs, with every kind of little beautiful needlework accessory I could think of. And this is actually what inspired the project, because this made me think of Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette film and the very particular visual aesthetic of it. You know, it was very French and in some ways very traditional, but it also had a distinctly modern feel to it. It was a mashup of era and styles, and it felt original and new, and I loved that. You know, actually I didn't love the film that much. It's kind of whatever, but I loved the feel of the film and the look of the film, and that's my inspiration for the series of smalls I'll be making in 2022, inspired by the macaron, needle sharpener, and Marie Antoinette, the film. So this is one of the fabrics I'll be using. This is a beautiful silk that I bought from Mood. Yeah, that's a better color representation. It's also a really good color match to my little macaron. And then I've picked some threads and crystals to go with it. I've got some luscious pinks. I've got pink crystals. And then I've got some good greens that I think will be just gorgeous against this blue-green. Oh, isn't that great? So I've got lots of ideas, and the first object in my small series is my New Year's Day start, which is one of the floral bands from Hands Across the Sea, Jane Marshall, which I'm stitching with the called for Soie threads on 45 count foxtail millet from Legacy Linen. It's the same color as Sycamore Seed Pod, but a lower count. I am slow enough on 45, I just couldn't bring myself to do 53, 63. I can, I'm just slow. And I'm lazy, so I went for the lower count. And this is my really weenie little start. Don't laugh. Yeah, I did a whopping 2 threads on Jane Marshall, and then I went back to other things. Really just so I could say I had a New Year's Day start on this. So I'm going to do this band, and then I am going to use that for the sides of a pincushion. With this as the top, I'm going to make some crystal trim for it, and that will be my very first small in my new series for my special stay-at-home sewing box. So I'll be keeping you posted on my progress there, which, as you can see, is so far minimal. So not sure how fast those are gonna show up on Flosstube, but eventually you'll see them. That'll be fun. And then my other big goal for this year is to get back to my casket that I currently have in progress, which tells the story of Brenda, Spencer's female knight, from his epic poem, The Fairy Queen. I know, I'm a huge nerd, but I was an English major and I specialized in early modern Brit Lit, so I cannot help it. And this is a project that has been in the works for a very long time. I completed all of the designs for all of the panels in 2015, and I only started stitching in 2020, and progress has been very start-stop. I have 2 panels finished and mounted on the casket. The interior is finished, and I am a good portion of the way through the lid, but that got put away when I decided to focus exclusively on the Simple Harmony box, and then got sucked into holiday stitching, which was incredibly fun. But it's a new year and I'd like to get back to my casket so that I can finish it this year. And I have been thinking about how best to show you my remaining big finishes that I haven't shown you, because the finished object is not really representative of the process I took to get there. So if I show you my finished casket, for example, you don't see all of the hours, probably weeks, I spent cutting out all the things that didn't work. I mean, I choose my daily scissors based on how fine the tips are, because I spent a lot of time digging into my stitching and cutting it out. And you don't see all the discarded bits of needle lace that I didn't like and didn't use, and the times I put it away in a huff because I couldn't see my way out of whatever corner I had stitched myself into. You just see the finish. So I thought it would be a better representation of the progress, not to start with my finished casket, but to take you through the one I'm working on now as I make it, which is a better illustration of how the process unfolds. So I will be holding some of my big past finishes for now, and instead showing you what I'm working on right now and the journey as it unfolds with all of its bumps, which are many and varied. Let me tell you, it is not necessarily a smooth process. I love it. I'm going to love the completed piece, but there is definitely a lot of oops, what did I just do moments along the road. And it's only fair to show you those too, because it's really an essential part of the process. But that's really my big Stitchy plans for 2022. Do more Christmas stitching year round, do my series of smalls culminating in a big fancy stay-at-home sewing box, and finish my casket that's currently in progress. Yeah, I don't have a lot planned for this year or anything. We'll see how much of that actually gets done. I'm not quite sure. But with that, let's get on to giveaways. So in my last episode, I was giving away 3 mini kits for this style of ornament finish, which includes a cut of the linen, a spool of the Soie Gobelins 779, this particular ribbon, and this silk fabric used for the backing. And my 3 winners, I will comment on all of your comments. Please contact me and send me your address so I can get these in the mail to you. The 3 winners are Deb M. Partain, Partain, Nancy's Needlework, and Catherine Adrian of Stitching and Costume. So congratulations, let me know your addresses. I will get those into the mail ASAP. And that brings me to my giveaway for this week, which celebrates 1,000 subscribers. And I really can't thank you enough for that. I'm so grateful and so thankful that really anyone wants to watch me talk about my stitching. And so this is an inspirations book. It's Blakiston Creamery, A Passion for Needlework. There is a counted work pair on the front. If you watch Susan Stanley, this would be a great exploration of pairs. And there is quite a variety of projects in this. Let me get to the gallery. Sorry, I didn't plan very well for this, apparently. So there's the pair. There's Helen M. Stevens surface embroidery. There's just, I'm not going to go through them all, but there's quite a variety of techniques. There's counter work, there's drawn work, there's surface embroidery, and there is gold work. There is a very special project, which is the reason I bought this book. It's called Jewel of the Sea, and it's a gold work sea turtle by a really incredible embroidery artist working today. Her name is Georgina Bellamy. Her handle is That Embroidery Girl. I will link to her platforms, although I think she's mostly on TikTok these days, so her Instagram has kind of gone dormant, but you can see her past work, which is incredible. And Georgina has really invented a new type of gold work, which are sculptural 3D objects that are finished on all sides. And I've done a fair amount of gold work, and I can't even begin to tell you how incredible and imaginative and pioneering her work is. It's amazing. So when Inspirations announced Jewels of the Sea, I had to do it. I don't normally do kits and surface embroidery just because I have so many ideas of my own and there aren't enough hours in the day. But Georgina is just a pioneer, an incredible creative mind, and I had to get a look at how she does what she does. So I bought the kit from Inspirations, and then I bought the book because Inspirations kits don't come with patterns or instructions. You have to buy either the magazine, or if you're unlucky, it's in the giant book. So this has actually been used in the sense that I myself used the instructions in the book. However, it is like new, and I did not cut into any of the patterns. I copied them. So this hasn't been written on. The pages are all new. It's quite crisp. And there's a variety of work in here. And this is my finish of Jewels of the Sea. Isn't he just great? I think the colors are just so unexpected and really fun. And so this is on the shell, this is a technique called chipping, which I've used before. It's very effective. It's like just tossing glitter everywhere, essentially. And it's quite easy. And it's very free-form gold work. So this is Jewels of the Sea finished. Look at that little face. Isn't he great? And I made this for my mother for Christmas for 2020 because she loves sea animals, and when the pandemic hit, they had a trip planned where they were going to do a lot of snorkeling and be able to see sea turtles that they had to cancel. So this was a little, essentially, consolation prize that was also incredibly beautiful, and I got to have a first-hand look at how Georgina does what she does, which is pretty incredible. I mean, this is a fully realized dimensional animal, and this is like tiny compared to some of her bigger pieces. She's amazing, and you should really check her work out. I can't say enough about just, wow, what she does. Just an incredible, incredible talent. And I love her use of color here. I just think that this is such a fun little guy. So I worked one of the projects from this book, so it's not totally new, but there's no damage. The corners are all intact. The patterns are intact. The only thing I've done is I put a sticky note in to mark the project, which I'll remove. So if you would like a passion for needlework, Blakiston Creamery, please put book in your comment. This thing weighs a ton, so I'm going to ask US only, please. I don't normally mind shipping internationally, but this thing is a brick. And it's fine to just want this for eye candy. You don't have to work any of the projects. If you're curious about surface embroidery, this would be a great look at different techniques, different things you can do with it. The instructions are all really good. There are great photographs. One thing Inspirations does really well is that their books are always beautifully photographed, and the instructions are quite comprehensive. So even if you're just curious, this is a great book to have. And so I am passing it on so that another person can enjoy some of the wonderful projects in this book, because I know I'm never really gonna have the time to make them, because I have smalls to make and a casket to make and Christmas stitching to finish and just too many things to do. So giveaway is the book in which you can find the instructions and patterns to make this, as well as a lot of other wonderful projects. So I'm not sure if the Jewels of the Sea kit is still available from Inspirations, but if it's not, these are just check pearls that you can find on Etsy. You can take the materials list in the book, search the terms on Etsy, and what you turn up will be comparable to what was included in the kit. These aren't, you know, some kind of fancy pearl that you need to have a special source for. So I'll leave you with one last look at this little guy, because he's incredible. if you are a complete novice at gold work, this might not be the best place to start, but you don't need to be advanced either. The techniques are pretty simple here. There's just a lot of it, and obviously the way that it's worked in terms of making a fully finished sculptural object is something quite new, but it's mostly couching and chipping. So really not nearly as difficult as this little guy looks. So if you would like to win the Inspirations book, please put book in your comment. And that, I think, brings us to the end of this episode. The next episode, we're going to talk about beads. Not so much beaded trim, but my journey with beads and some of the sculptural beadwork I've done. Objects like the beaded mistletoe I showed you in episode 10 are really just the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot of overlap between beading and surface embroidery, especially stump work. It's the same technique, just two different materials used to fill it. So we're going to explore how I got started with it, one of my earliest finishes, and some of the fun things I've done with it since then, which I really hope will interest you. Beads exert a lot of fascination over me. I can't resist the sparkle and appeal of these little bits of glass. They fascinate me, but I hope they will intrigue you as well, and that you'll stick around for the next episode. So there will be a new Simple Harmony tutorial up next week. My most recent tutorial on the ribbon edge ornament finishing is up, and I will see you again in 2 weeks to have a really fun, really sparkly talk about beads. And until then, happy stitching.